January 3, 2025, News Report 1. According to Yonhap News Agency, on January 3, the Joint Investigation Headquarters of South Korea suspended its arrest operation against President Yoon Suk-yeol. At 6 a.m. on the same day, the headquarters dispatched 150 people to execute the arrest at the presidential residence, including 30 personnel from the South Korean Senior Civil Servants Criminal Investigation Division, abbreviated as Public Investigation Division, and 120 police officers. The team took 2 hours to enter the presidential compound and was blocked by more than 200 presidential guards about 200 meters from the presidential building. A physical altercation ensued. After more than 5 hours of confrontation, the Joint Investigation Headquarters announced it could not continue executing the arrest warrant and terminated the operation at 1:30 p.m. This is the first time in South Korea's history that an arrest warrant has been issued for a sitting president. According to South Korean law, the presidential guard's duty is to protect the national leader. While President Yoon has been impeached, he has not been removed from office, and until a final ruling by the Constitutional Court, he remains the democratically elected president. Therefore, the presidential guard's responsibility is still to protect him. Additionally, the Joint Investigation Headquarters announced that it has initiated an investigation into the director and deputy director of the Presidential Guard for obstruction of special duties and has requested that they appear for questioning on January 4. Furthermore, the Public Investigation Division has instructed Acting President Choi Hwang-mok to order the Presidential Guard to cooperate with the execution of the arrest warrant. News Report 2. The New York Times reported that on January 2, a small plane crashed in Fullerton, California, killing 2 people and injuring 19 others. The plane, a 4-seat single-engine aircraft, had just taken off from Fullerton Airport and crashed only a minute after departure. The plane passed over the roof of a furniture factory and ultimately exploded and caught fire in a warehouse on the factory grounds. Local police confirmed that the 2 deceased were the pilot and a passenger, while the 19 injured were all factory employees. This tragedy is one of several that have occurred in the U.S. at the start of the new year, following incidents such as a car pedestrian accident in New Orleans and a car explosion-suicide in Las Vegas, now with another plane crash. News Report 3. According to the China Earthquake Network Center, 11 earthquakes occurred within 24 hours in Yinchuan and Yinchuan City of the Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region on January 2. The epicenter was located in the Jinfeng District and Yongning County of Yinchuan. The strongest quake occurred at 10 a.m. on the same day with a magnitude of 4.8. The frequent tremors caused panic among local residents, especially in the city center of Yinchuan, where store shelves collapsed and balconies of buildings were damaged. Due to the frequent quakes, supermarkets became overcrowded as citizens rushed to stock up on supplies. Traffic surged, causing severe congestion, and both the train station and airport were packed with residents attempting to leave Yinchuan. Social media posts claimed that millions were scrambling to leave Yinchuan, with the situation reminiscent of scenes from the movie 2012. In response to the continuing tremors, citizens' anxiety escalated, and many opted to evacuate quickly. Some netizens commented that it was impossible to escape during the earthquake, so leaving the area seemed necessary, urging the Yinchuan municipal government to assist with evacuations rather than urging people to remain still. News Report 4. According to Radio France International, RFI, the U.S. State Department released a report stating that the U.S. Department of Defense announced on January 2 the sale of advanced AIM-120 medium-range air-to-air missiles to Japan, valued at $3.64 billion, to enhance Japan's capability to respond to threats. The AIM-120 missile is a lightweight missile that, while not expensive, offers exceptional performance. It integrates an inertial guidance system, mid-course updates, and active radar, allowing for effective interception of targets. RFI analyzes that the sale of these advanced missiles to Japan is intended to address China's military threats and the tensions in the Taiwan Strait, further strengthening Japan's military deterrence. Additionally, Nikkei Asia reported in October last year that Japan and the U.S. were discussing the possibility of jointly producing the AIM-120 missile. News Report 5. The United Daily News reported that on January 3, Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te visited the Navy Sea Breeze Squadron in Taichung. Military officials accompanying him disclosed that by 2026, Taiwan's anti-ship missile units will be fully transferred to the Coastal Operations Command. According to the plan, the Taiwanese Navy will be reorganized into three main units: Fleets, Coastal Operations Forces, and Marine Corps, with the Coastal Operations Command having 4 strike groups in the North, Central, South, and East regions as the main forces to counter and destroy Chinese landing ships. The establishment of the Coastal Operations Command, modeled after the U.S. military structure, is intended to emulate the U.S. military's organization. The report also noted that during the administration of former President Tsai Ing-wen, a large-scale military reform was conducted, successfully completing the structural adjustments of the military. Since taking office, Lai Ching-te has continued to push for military deployments, achieving smooth progress. Notably, the influence of the Huangpu faction has been weakened, becoming part of the reforms. News Report 6. Breaking Defense, a U.S. military news website, reported that U.S. Navy Secretary Frank C. Franchetti has placed a countdown clock in his office, counting down to 2027. The clock was set to signal the Navy's seriousness regarding the possibility of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLA, launching an attack on Taiwan in 2027. According to reports, one of the goals of the Plan 33, proposed by Franchetti last September, is to expand the Navy's joint operational ecosystem, improve maintenance and training levels, and ensure that 80% of warships, submarines, and aircraft are ready for combat in a very short time frame. The U.S. military has repeatedly warned that the PLA may attack Taiwan in 2027. While this initially seemed like background discussion for defense budget purposes, experts believe this initiative is more likely to enhance training and raise military alertness. News Report 7. Luther News Agency reported that on November 3, the Philippine Presidential Office released a statement announcing that President Marcos had signed an executive order to reorganize the National Security Council, NSC, of the Philippines. According to the order, Vice President Sara Duterte will no longer be a member of the NSC due to the fact that the role of Vice President is unrelated to national security matters. This change has further intensified the political conflict between the Marcos and Duterte families, with Sara being excluded. In 2022, Marcos and Sara formed a political partnership and successfully ran for the presidency. However, over time, their political alliance gradually broke down, especially over differing positions on China. The Duterte family tends to be pro-China, while Marcos leans toward pro-US policies, with conflicts becoming increasingly evident, making a split almost inevitable. In June last year, Sara announced her resignation as Secretary of Education but continued to serve as Vice President. This move signaled further deterioration in their relationship. In November 2023, Sara publicly stated at a press conference that if she were to be assassinated, she would hire a killer to assassinate Marcos, an utterance that heightened tensions and confirmed the complete breakdown of their political relationship. News Report 8. According to a report by China News Service, Haikou Customs released data on January 2, revealing that the total number of visitors to Hainan last year was 5.68 million. A 16% decrease compared to the previous year. Additionally, the total value of duty-free goods purchased by visitors in Hainan amounted to 30.9 billion renminbi, showing a nearly 30% decline. This downward trend indicates that despite Hainan's efforts to develop duty-free shopping zones, it faces a dual decline in both the number of visitors and sales of duty-free goods. It has been reported that by the end of this year, Hainan will seal off the island, becoming China's largest free trade zone and further developing into a duty-free shopping area. However, in light of the decline in both visitor numbers and duty-free goods sales, the island closure may bring about a series of impacts. The closure could further affect visitor flow, especially as people's shopping demand decreases, challenging Hainan's appeal as a duty-free shopping center. Balancing the free trade zone policies with measures to attract tourists and consumers will be key to Hainan's future development. News Report 9. Radio Free Asia reports that data from online booking platforms shows that during the Spring Festival, domestic airfares in China dropped significantly, with ticket prices for some popular routes falling by more than 70%. Some ticket prices were reduced to about 30% of their original price, around 300 renminbi. For example, tickets from Guangzhou to Shanghai dropped by 75%, from Guangzhou to Harbin by 74%, and from Hangzhou to Sanya by 64%. However, despite the low prices for outbound flights, return tickets remain expensive, especially during the return peak after the Spring Festival holiday. Some travelers have found that while airfares to Hainan are as low as a few hundred RMB, return tickets have soared to over 10,000 renminbi. This is due to the concentration of return trips after the holiday ends, especially on the 7th day of the Lunar New Year when many people choose to fly. This creates high demand for return tickets, resulting in price spikes. In contrast, outbound tickets are generally cheaper because departure times are more flexible. On the other hand, train tickets are in short supply. Mr. Zheng from Shanghai mentioned that he planned a business trip to Hong Kong and found that the return train tickets were much more expensive than the outbound ones. A woman from Nanjing pointed out that, in addition to adjustments in airline operating strategies, the economic downturn had led airlines to reduce flights, resulting in fewer people flying. To save costs, many people are opting to travel by train or by car. News Report 10. At a press conference on January 3, the Deputy Secretary-General of the National Development and Reform Commission announced that this year, the scope of the trade-in policy would be expanded to include consumer electronics such as mobile phones, tablets, and smartwatches. The goal of this policy is to stimulate consumption, especially in the context of an economic downturn, by encouraging consumers to replace old products with new ones. According to a report from China News, data from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology's Information and Communication Research Institute revealed that in November 2023, China's mobile phone shipments totaled 29.6 million units, a 5.1% year-on-year decrease. Among these, shipments of foreign brand phones dropped sharply by 47%, approximately 3.6 million units, which was particularly notable. One reason for Apple's price reductions is this market shift. On the other hand, domestic phone sales saw some growth, indicating a decline in consumers' purchasing power and a shift towards more affordable domestic phone brands. This trend suggests that under economic pressure, consumers are increasingly opting for cost-effective phones, especially in uncertain external economic conditions, and domestic brands are becoming more attractive. News Report 11. Xinhua News Agency reports that the Chinese Central Organization Department recently allocated 384 million renminbi from party fees to visit and provide assistance to party members, elderly party members, and veterans experiencing financial difficulties during the New Year and Spring Festival holidays. The allocation is 1 million renminbi less than last year but 48 million renminbi more than in 2023. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of China has instructed all levels of the organization to ensure adequate resources and ensure that the funds are distributed in a timely manner before the Spring Festival. This initiative aims to help party members and veterans in need get through the holiday season, expressing care and support for them. According to data from 2022, the total number of Communist Party of China members was 98.04 million, with approximately 12% of them, or about 12 million, being over 30 years old. News Report 12. On January 3, the US dollar index rose to 109.212, causing the Chinese yuan to depreciate. The yuan closed at 7.3093 against the dollar, down 99 basis points from the previous day, breaching the 7.3 level for the first time since November 3, 2023. In the offshore yuan market, the Asian trading session also saw the currency drop below 7.35. As of 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the yuan traded at 7.3583 against the dollar, while the central parity rate was set at 7.1878, indicating a deviation of approximately 1,000 basis points, reflecting the People's Bank of China's ongoing efforts to stabilize the yuan exchange rate. Other currencies were also affected by the strong dollar. For instance, Taiwan's dollar closed at 32.917 on January 3, depreciating by 4.9 cents and breaching the 32.9 mark, its lowest level since March 17, 2016. News Report 13. On January 2, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Lin Qialong announced that Legislative Speaker Han Kuo-yu would lead a delegation of 8 legislators to attend the inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on January 20. The delegation is set to depart on January 18 and return on January 24, with plans to participate in meetings, events, and visits during the trip. However, on January 3, news emerged that the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, caucus submitted a proposal to replace Han as legislative speaker. They accused Han of failing to comply with constitutional requirements by not publishing revised versions of the Election and Recall Act and the Fiscal Revenue and Expenditure Allocation Act as scheduled, thereby violating the Constitution. The DPP also criticized Han for failing to uphold neutrality during legislative sessions, arguing he is no longer fit to serve as speaker. Despite this, the DPP lacks a legislative majority, making it challenging to pass the proposal. Nevertheless, the move underscores the DPP's dissatisfaction with Han and their political stance. News Report 14. According to the South China Morning Post, former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence is scheduled to visit Hong Kong in mid-January to attend the UBS Wealth Forum. During his private visit, Pence plans to meet with business leaders in Hong Kong but will not engage with local government officials. News Report 15. Under new California regulations, starting in 2025, landlords must return security deposits to tenants if the rental property is left clean at move-out. If tenants cause damage or incur additional cleaning costs, landlords must provide photographic evidence to justify withholding the deposit. Specifically, starting April 1, landlords must take photos of the property after the tenant moves out and before and after any repairs or cleaning. By July 1, landlords will also need to document the property's condition before and at the time of move-in. These new rules aim to prevent disputes over security deposits, such as a widely publicized case in Jiangxi Province, China, where a landlord scrutinized a rental property with a spotlight and issued a $10,000 compensation claim, despite the monthly rent being only $1,200. The regulations are expected to ensure fairer treatment of tenants and landlords regarding deposit handling. News Report 16. According to Yonhap News Agency, South Korea's Ministry of Interior and Safety reported on January 3 that the country recorded 242,000 births in 2024, an increase of 7,300, 3.1%, from the previous year. This marks the first increase in birth numbers since 2015, possibly reflecting the positive impact of South Korea's seasonal fertility policies. Despite the rise in births, 360,000 deaths were recorded last year, a 1.93% increase from 2023. As a result, South Korea's overall population declined by approximately 120,000, highlighting the country's aging population and the challenges posed by demographic shifts. News Report 17. According to Australia's SBS News, babies born in 2025 are being referred to as the beta generation. This generational term, rooted in American cultural naming conventions, emphasizes how societal and technological changes shape each generation. Common generational characteristics include: Millennials, 1981 to 1996, witnessed the transition from analog to digital during the early Internet era. Generation Z, 1997 to 2012, grew up with technological tools like smartphones, iPads, and social media. Generation Alpha, 2013 to 2024, fully immersed in a digital environment, accustomed to AI, automation, and immersive learning. Generation Beta, 2025 to 2039, expected to grow up during rapid AI advancements, living in a highly digital and automated world. Generation Beta is anticipated to experience significant technological influences in their upbringing and lifestyle. News Report 18. The U.S.-based Center for Immigration Studies estimates that approximately 400,000 anchor babies were born in the U.S. last year. The term refers to children born to non-citizen parents in the U.S., who automatically gain citizenship under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Of these, an estimated 300,000 were born to parents who were undocumented immigrants, while about 72,000 were born to foreign tourists, visa workers, or students. Once these children reach adulthood, they can sponsor their parents for green cards under U.S. immigration law, potentially granting their parents legal residency. This phenomenon is a recurring topic in U.S. immigration and citizenship policy debates, particularly concerning the legal and social implications of children born to immigrant parents.